On this, of course, a very good evening to Aphumelele. In the initial court proceedings, of course, the Gupta assets were frozen. In the subsequent appeal, we then saw that some of the assets were actually returned to the Guptas. The defense then said that this exactly shows that there was flaws in the state's case. Essentially, as we ended today, where proceedings standing?
It was indeed a very interesting day in court today, as we could hear the representatives of the accused, of course, all saying that this case is supposed to be struck off the roll, because they say, all of them, that the state is not having a legal standing. Then again, as they were citing especially the ruling in May, when the case was in the High Court in Bloemfontein, saying that all those frozen assets should be unfrozen. Of course, that was indeed the serious argument that was held in court today. But when we heard the side of the state, of course, saying that they can't reveal so much that they have now, as the trial hasn't begun, but they still saying that they are confident that they have a strong case. But what they need, it's more time, at least 3 to 6 months, because this new information, new evidence that is in their possession that they have to go under, saying that there's 302 bank financial statements that they need to analyze. Of course, that other documents are from international, and also others are from around the country, saying that yes, of course, they can't disclose. But on the other hand, it was very interesting that the senior counsel, Mike Helens, who's representing some of the accused, including Atul Varun Gupta, was saying that this matter, the state is just degrading the dignity of those people, especially that they managed to comply, of course, with the bail conditions. We know that they were out on bail conditions, having to report to their nearest police stations, and also they gave away their passports as to not to be able to, of course, travel internationally. Then the senior counsel Mike Helens, of course, did say that this is quite is very disappointed from the state side, because this case is not really different from the case that the Guptas won, of course, in the High Court in Bloemfontein. That also we know the ruling was that the case the state didn't have a strong case against the accused, hence there was unfrozen of these assets. So it was really interesting. Later on, when we talked to the NPA, they still confident, saying that they have a case, regardless of what the legal representatives of the accused are submitting in court, but they can't really disclose, because that won't play in their favor. But the case is postponed to next week, Tuesday. Like the magistrate court, the magistrate did ask for the postponement rather for Tuesday, so that he can go through the documents.
Aphumelele, of course, you have been covering the story from the onset, and you know it's been a very, very controversial story, and it's also every single time we saw this case and the proceedings play out in court, there was something new, there was some sort of shocking evidence that came to light. Just upon the proceedings that took place in May, we then saw that some of these proceeds that were actually taken from the Estina Dairy project were actually used to fund that huge Gupta
It's quite
wedding.
Interesting, because yes, there's new evidence from the side of the state that did come forward, saying that, but they can't really disclose, because today it was not the time for the trial. What they came rather to ask for the court to do for their side is to postpone the matter until they know that they are done with the investigations, as they did say, of course, in court, that the investigation involves the documentations that they received in the country and internationally, and also that there's been people who have been coming forward making statements, the witnesses witnesses making statements on the matter. Yes, it's indeed a controversial matter, like we all know. Just like yesterday, the Portfolio Committee of Agriculture was there in Vrede, doing an oversight there. But interestingly, they also were questioning as to who is benefiting now in this project, because we could see from there that also the beneficiaries are still stranded. There has not been way forward also on their side.
Thank you very much. SABC's Aphumelele Mdlalane from Bloemfontein in the Free State with an update on the Estina Dairy Farm case. Of course, it has been postponed until next week, Tuesday.